Glad you could make it for this final chapter. We started this whole journey by talking about how important it is to think beyond the usual suspects like Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and all those big players. And then we went on this awesome adventure of uncovering these hidden gems, these niche platforms where you can really connect with your people. And we even talked about tailoring your content to each of those platforms so you don't sound like a broken record. But are you ready for this? Today, we're stepping into the future of social media. And let me tell you, things are about to get really interesting. Yeah, what's really fascinating to me is we often think of the future as the fixed destination. But the truth is, the future of social media is being shaped right now. It's constantly evolving. And this final chapter of our source material, it throws open the doors to some seriously mind-blowing trends. They're pushing this evolution forward at warp speed. Lay it on me here. What kind of mind-blowing trends are we talking about? I mean, are we talking about like living in a sci-fi movie here with social media? Well, think about it. AR filters are practically everywhere these days, right? And virtual reality social spaces are starting to gain some serious traction. Imagine attending a concert with friends from across the globe, all within a virtual world. Or picture a brand launching a new product. That you can experience in 3D from your living room. This isn't just futuristic fantasy, it's the reality that's unfolding before our very eyes. And for businesses and creators, it's opening up a whole new dimension for storytelling and audience engagement. That does sound pretty incredible. But the source material also mentions something about decentralized platforms and blockchain technology. And I gotta admit, that's where I start to get a little lost. Yeah, it can definitely sound complicated, but at its core, it's about shifting power back to the users. Imagine a social media landscape where you have more control over your data, your privacy. That's the potential that decentralized platforms bring to the table. They're all about creating a more democratic and transparent experience, which, let's be honest, is becoming more and more important as concerns about data privacy and censorship continue to grow. Okay, so more control for users. That's a good thing, right? But how does blockchain actually make that happen? I mean, what's the connection there? Think of blockchain like a giant, secure digital ledger that's shared across a network of computers. So instead of your data being held by a single company like Facebook or Google, it's distributed across this network, making it much harder for anyone to control and manipulate. This means you get to decide who sees your data, how it's used, and you can even get compensated for sharing it. It's a whole new model of data ownership. So it's like taking back control of your digital identity. That's pretty empowering. But with all these changes happening, how are people reacting to all of this? Are we all just going to jump on board with these new platforms and technologies? That's the million-dollar question. And it brings us to another major trend that's shaking things up: evolving consumer behavior. Today's social media user is a different breed altogether. They're more discerning, more skeptical, and can sniff out inauthenticity a mile away. So what are people looking for? What's going to make them stick around? They crave authenticity for starters. They're tired of the perfectly curated airbrushed versions of reality and are hungry for real stories from real people. Think about the rise of user-generated content. It's everywhere. It's not just brands pushing their message anymore. It's about people sharing their experiences and connecting over shared values. That makes sense. I definitely noticed that shift myself. People want to see the real you, not some polished facade. And speaking of values, the source material mentions something called socially conscious consumerism. What exactly does that mean in the world of social media? Think about aligning yourself with brands that share your values. Think about companies known for ethical sourcing or supporting social causes. Consumers, especially younger generations, are increasingly making purchasing decisions based on a brand's commitment to sustainability, ethical practices, and social impact. They want to feel good about the brand they support. And they're using social media to voice their opinions and hold brands accountable. So it's not just about what you sell anymore, it's about what you stand for. Absolutely. Brands can no longer afford to just talk the talk. They need to walk the walk and demonstrate their commitment authentically. And goes even deeper than that. Think about the sheer volume of content we're bombarded with every single day. Our attention spans are shrinking, and we're becoming increasingly selective about what we choose to consume. That means creators and brands need to be incredibly concise and impactful with their messaging to cut through the noise and capture our attention. So you're saying it's all about quality over quantity now? No more endless scrolling through irrelevant posts. Precisely, every post, every story, every interaction is a chance to connect with your audience authentically and meaningfully. And this need for concise, impactful content, well, it's directly tied to the rise of new platforms and formats that are designed for quick consumption, like TikTok with its short form videos or Clubhouse with its live audio chats. Exactly. These platforms are tapping into our desire for bite-sized information and real-time interaction. And as consumers continue to gravitate towards these platforms, creators and brands need to adapt their content strategies accordingly. So we've got this explosion of new platforms, this shift towards authenticity and social consciousness, and this constant need to be concise and engaging. Sounds like a lot to keep up with. It definitely is. And to make things even more interesting, we can't forget about the platforms themselves and how they fit into this rapidly changing future. Clear. So what's the deal with the platforms? Or are they just going to sit back and let all these trends happen around them? Not quite. This brings us to the third key trend we need to address: the constant evolution of social media policies and algorithms. These platforms are constantly tweaking and refining the rules of the game, often without much warning. And that can have a huge impact on businesses and creators, right? And I mean, if you're building your entire strategy around a specific platform and then they change the rules, you're kind of stuck. You hit the nail on the head. A seemingly small algorithm change can subtly boost some content while burying others. It's like the Wild West out there. So how do we navigate this constantly shifting landscape? It sounds like a full-time job just to stay on top of all the changes. It can definitely feel that way. But that's why we're here, right? We're going to break it all down for you and equip you with the knowledge and insights you need to thrive in this dynamic and exciting world. Well, let's dive in. I'm ready to learn. How about you? Absolutely. Let's go. Remember those key takeaways from our last deep dive. Diversifying, finding your niche, tailoring your content. Well, those are still super relevant. But now we're layering on this whole new level of understanding. It's like we've leveled up in the social media game. But with all this new information, it's easy to feel overwhelmed. Where do we even begin? Yeah, you're absolutely right. It can feel like drinking from a fire hose. Yeah. That the first step is to embrace the fact that the set it and forget it approach to social media is officially dead. The platforms we use today might look completely different tomorrow, and how people engage with content is constantly evolving. So we need to be like social media chameleons, always adapting to the environment. Exactly. The key is to become a lifelong student of the game. Stay curious, experiment like new platforms and features. And don't be afraid to try new things. You never know what might work. But continuous learning takes time and energy. How do we know where to focus our efforts? I mean, we could be experts on everything. That brings us to our second key takeaway. Know your audience. It's not about being on every platform. It's about being on the right platforms. Where do your ideal customers hang out? What are their interests? Once you understand your audience, you can tailor your strategy and your content to meet their needs. So it's all about being strategic and intentional with our efforts. No more just posting randomly and hoping for the best. Exactly. And that brings us back to the theme of authenticity that we've been talking about. You know, consumers can spot a fake from a mile away. They want real stories, real people, real connections. So ditch the marketing jargon and just be ourselves. But isn't there a risk of being too real? What if people don't like what they see? Of course, there's always a balance to strike. But I think the key is to be genuine and transparent. Let your personality shine through, be honest about your values, and don't be afraid to show your vulnerability. People connect with people, not with perfectly curated brands. And remember, you don't have to please everyone. Focus on connecting with the people who align with your values and your message. This makes me think about something you mentioned earlier: socially conscious consumerism. So consumers are not only looking for authenticity, but also for brands that align with their values. Absolutely. Consumers, especially younger generations, are increasingly voting with their wallets. They want to support businesses that are making a positive impact on the world. So we need to be adaptable, understand our audience, embrace authenticity, and actually stand for something meaningful. It's a lot to juggle. How can we possibly keep up with all of this and still have time to, live our lives? That's a valid concern. And it highlights the importance of strategic planning and prioritization. This is our third key takeaway, and it's all about being laser focused on your goals. What are you trying to achieve with your social media presence? Brand awareness, driving sales, building a community. Once you know your goals, then you can develop a strategic plan that outlines which platforms to prioritize, what type of content to create, and how you'll measure your success. It's not about doing everything, it's about doing the right things effectively. It sounds like it's all about working smarter, not harder. But with social media changing so rapidly, how can we create a plan that won't be obsolete in a few months? You bring up a good point. A key is to be flexible and adaptable. Build a solid foundation. but be willing to adjust your sales as the winds change.